Hello and welcome viewers, I am Priia and you're watching NewsX. American voters will face a clear choice for the president on November 5th between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. Till now, it seems that the race is toe-to-toe essentially. But as we await the climax, it appears to be hurling towards a photo finish. And in the heart of this lies 7 battleground states: Arizona, Georgia, Michigan, Nevada, North Carolina, Pennsylvania and Wisconsin. Now, these battleground states are characterized by their unpredictable voting patterns, often switching between Democratic and Republican candidates. And these states often have a mix of demographic groups, varied economic interests and differing cultural attitudes, leading to fluctuating voter preferences from one election to the next. The final set of pollsters by the New York Times and Siena College are finding Vice President Kamala Harris showing new strength in North Carolina and Georgia in particular. Meanwhile, former President of the US Donald Trump has erased her lead in Pennsylvania. These pollsters also show that Harris is now narrowly ahead in Nevada and Wisconsin, while Trump is leading in Arizona. The polls also show them locked in very tight races in Michigan, Georgia and Pennsylvania. But the results in all 7 states are within the margin of sampling error, meaning that neither candidate has a definitive lead in any of them. Now, both candidates have multiple pathways available to capture the 270 electoral college votes required to claim victory, assuming that polls are not dramatically underestimating the support for one or the other. Now, in such a close race, even a small systemic polling error could tip the contest decisively in either direction. Now, these figures come as more than 70 million Americans have already casted an early ballot. But remember, the tightly contested landscape means that the race remains highly uncertain as the campaign enters its final hours. In fact, we've taken a look at the recent set of predictions by the pollsters, but even as the culmination is set to take place tomorrow, joining us on the broadcast are a few very special guests: Ambassador Yogesh Gupta, former diplomat; Priia Seagar, editorial director of NewsX, as well as Rohan Gunaratna, a Middle East expert. I'd first like to go across to Ambassador Gupta, who's joining us on the broadcast. Elections are taking place in the world's oldest democracy. How do you think they will impact the world's largest democracy? What would happen if either Kamala Harris or Donald Trump comes to power? What will the impact be for India?
Well, I think, first of all, India has got India has had good relations with both, the Republicans as well as the Democrats in the past. So that is the bottom line, that I think we should be able to carry on fairly good relations, and we should be able to continue with the momentum that has been built up in India's relations with the United States. But given that bottom line, I personally think that we would be better off if the Republicans, that is President Trump, comes back to the White House again, because we have had much better relationship. Prime Minister Modi and President Trump have excellent personal ties, and apart from 1 or 2 issues relating to trade, I think on the whole, we click much better with President Trump than with the Democrats, who have a habit of interfering in India's internal affairs.
All right, I'd like to take the discussion across to Ms. Priia Seagar, who's also with us on the broadcast. Ma'am, how are you viewing these elections in particular? We've been seeing a lot of discourse on social media where both Democrats and Republicans have expressed their views very, very strongly. So it does seem to be a highly polarizing contest between the two. But do you think voters are going to cast their votes on the basis of their ideology or on the policy positions of Kamala Harris and Donald Trump?
Well, I think a bit of both, and polarizing times are really a sign of the times we live in across the world. I think it's not just in the US, it's polarized everywhere where you look at it. This battle has been pretty divisive and sharp between Trump and Kamala Harris, as it was between Trump and I mean, in the last election also. What I find interesting is I totally agree with what Ambassador Gupta said in terms of the personal equation that we have with Donald Trump. You know, Abki Baar Trump Sarkar and Narendra Modi and Donald Trump do have a personal equation to an extent that yes, that will help us, but diplomacy is also between countries and not individuals. So we'll have to take a look at the larger, impact between India and the US and the current times, where you have the threat from China looming large. You also have the Russia-Ukraine equation. So there are equations where the US would need India. So would it, suit them to antagonize us, or would Kamala Harris also, who has personally spoken about, for instance, the abrogation of 370. She's been pretty hard on some of the social fabric of the country is under threat. She's made comments on regarding that also. So if it was a Congress government at the center, then Kamala Harris would be a very good fit. But with Donald Trump, yes, Narendra Modi's equation and the BJP's equation will work better. But at the end of the day, we'll have to look at the global position, at the strategic impact of where India and US stand vis-a-vis the rest of the world, and that will really take the relationship forward. What one should be concerned about is also what Ambassador Gupta spoke about, the tariffs and the economy and the red flags that have already been raised by Donald Trump, in terms of raising duties and in terms of, his harsh policies on immigration. So these are issues that will cause concern. But by and large, I would say, give or take a few, Donald Trump may be better, but at the end of the day, it is India-US that really stands.
Indeed, and I'd also like to shift focus to how other publications are covering, the climax of this battle.
Yeah, your voice is cracking a bit.
All right, I have a couple of screenshots over here. I request the team upstairs to reflect it to all of our viewers if that is possible. These are a couple of screenshots from different news articles right there on your screens, viewers. You can see the New York Times. The headline reads, Harris and Trump close out campaigns in starkly different moods. But that's not all. Here is an article from the Times of India, where they've said, are you ready to do this? Harris and Trump ask America for its votes. The Jakarta Post, meanwhile, has a picture of Elon Musk dancing at one of the rallies in Pennsylvania. This is at the rally in Butler in Pennsylvania on October 5th. You can see Trump in the photo. You can see Elon Musk also dancing. And Jakarta Post has noted that Elon Musk and X are the epicenter of the US election. Misinformation is what they have stated. Meanwhile, this is of course another article, this time from one of the German newspapers, if I am not wrong. Here's of course another screenshot from the Wall Street Journal. It's of course asking, it's stating that the third candidate in this election is the economy. So they have of course highlighted the concerns that a lot of people, a lot of Americans have been reflecting on the economy in particular. Meanwhile, we also see another headline from another publication that has said that the US election is an electric campaign and a crucial choice for the country. The Globe and Mail, that is a Canadian paper, is stating that Trump and Harris are targeting pivotal Pennsylvania voters in the campaign's final hours, and that it's posted an analysis that Trump is sticking to familiar rhetoric with dark tones and shifting promises in the campaign's final hours. So these are of course just a few of the headlines that have been posted, but of course it's very interesting, the Indonesian headline in particular, and I'd like to take this up with Ambassador Gupta. We've been seeing a lot of discourse on social media in particular, where a lot of celebrities are endorsing both of the candidates. Elon Musk in particular has taken the spotlight. He was at Trump's rally as well. He's constantly been rallying for him on X as well. He's been talking about how the media in the US is covering the election in particular. So what do you make of Elon Musk, the Elon Musk factor? Do you think that's going to have a lot of impact on young voters, in particular voters who are probably fans of Musk himself, coming out and supporting Trump? Ambassador Gupta, can you hear me? All right, there seems to be an audio glitch. Priya Seagar, this question is for you. If you could take it forward.
Hello.
Hello, am I audible?
Yeah, okay, yeah. Yes, now. But earlier I wasn't getting the sound.
All right.
Yeah, neither was I.
Yes, you may go ahead.
Can you just repeat the last part of your sentence?
All right, so I was talking about Elon Musk. I was showcasing, in fact, an article from the Jakarta Post, an Indonesian publication that had put its headline as Elon Musk and X are at the epicenter of the US election, and they have a photograph of Musk dancing at Trump's rally in Butler. We've been seeing that Musk has been very vocal on social media, and the discourse around this, he's targeted the American media in particular, and he's come out and stated on X numerous times that he's championing free speech. Do you think then there is an Elon Musk factor that has come into play in the US elections, and perhaps fans of his would now be swayed to vote for Trump? Do you think he's had an influence as far as pulling voters towards Trump is concerned?
Elon Musk, frankly, he didn't have good relations with the Biden administration. And he has a feeling that the Democrats, they are infringing on the freedom of the Americans, and they are instituting too many rules and regulations, and that President Trump is more pro-business, he's more pro-industry, he's more industry-friendly. And he also feels that in case the Republicans come into power, then his business and will certainly do much better than it has done with the Democrats. So he has come out openly in support of President Trump. And as far as Indonesia and other countries are concerned, I mean, the election of the US president has a global impact, because the US policies touch, so many countries across the world, in every part of the world. So every country is interested to know who is going to be the next US president. And since this election has been much more divisive, I think a lot of people have got their views, of favoring one or the other incumbent. So that is not surprising. I mean, that's happening in so many countries too. So yes, this election has certainly created a lot of excitement, and so many people are eager to know how it is going and which side is going to be winning and how it's going to impact their country or their businesses or their industry.
Indeed, I'd like to take this conversation forward to Priya Seagar. Ambassador Gupta mentioned that US policy touches every corner of the world, and one very prominent example of this is Ukraine. We've been seeing NATO being reinforced under the Biden administration. Trump, of course, tried to reduce or try to shun NATO for quite a while. He was focused on the Indo-Pacific, in particular on China. But now under Biden, we've been seeing a resurgent NATO, something that Kamala Harris has been pointing out during her speeches as well. So speaking about Ukraine, what do you think can happen if Trump comes to power? What outcomes will we see with regards to this war?
Well, Trump also has an equation with the Russian president, which he's of course trying to distance himself from, but the relationship is there, the equation was there, we saw it in the last elections also. So given that, I think Trump coming in, if he could, he says, of course, if I was the president, there would have been no war anyway. Whether he can do something using, and try and balance it, I don't think he's in favor of a prolonged war. Neither is, I think, Kamala Harris. But she has made her stand. She's been, prevaricating between. She has to first decide exactly what her stand is. Is she with Biden, or is she with, she boycotted the Ukrainian president when he had come there. So what is her stand going to be? I'm still not very clear on what her position is. In terms of that, India's position is also, we saw Prime Minister Modi reaching out to Russia. His first visit after Prime Minister was to Russia and not anywhere else. So these are going to be equations which I think will need walking over in terms of there is also the threat from China that will be there, which is why I'm saying India's position is pretty, in terms of US, I think Ambassador Gupta would be better than me to really analyze it, but I think there is somewhat of a symmetry, or somewhat of a, India role could be, Trump at least would not have a problem with India's role, at least in that.
Indeed, and a quick follow-up to this, you've asked what is Kamala Harris's stand in particular, that you've not been able to figure it out exactly. Well, she has been Biden's deputy for the last 4 years and has just come to the fore in the last 3 months itself. The Democratic Party did try to stretch out, Biden's bid for re-election for quite a while, and Harris had very little time to take over. Do you think is that a setback for her, or would this work in her favor? Because she also ticks a lot of other boxes. She's a woman candidate. She's also both black as well as Indian. So what do you see? Do you see this working out in her favor?
The question is to?
That question is to you.
Oh, okay. I see. I mean, in terms of her being she is positioning herself as the first woman president. We've already had Barack Obama as being the first black president, but in that sense, I think that's a role which will appeal to their own Democratic, the liberal vote bank, in terms of rather than Trump's vote bank. Trump's vote bank is very aggressive, very macho, very more. I think he's now trying to move the woman vote, which is why recently he had this whole rallies. He had women coming whose daughters had been, victim of crimes by immigrants, talking about women's rights. He's trying to surround himself with not just the glam women, but, mothers and working women, white collar women, trying to say that he's all this, all the allegations against him. Also, he's trying to address that in terms of optics. So that would be interesting to see how where the women vote will go, as I think you have the polls, so you would know. Another point I want to make is in the question of endorsements. You talk about Elon Musk's endorsements. We also had Washington Post not endorsing Kamala Harris, or whoever they would have, which would have probably been Kamala Harris. That itself is very interesting, because in today's time, that it's very difficult for a news anchor to remain objective, because everything is so polarized that one has to, I think, give your point of view, or call what you think is wrong or right. So in that, Washington Post, at a time when views rather than news make headlines, choosing not to give an endorsement is very telling of the kind of times we live in, and also the fact that they expect that Donald Trump is ahead and will probably be winning, so they don't really want to antagonize him any more than they've already done.
All right, and one last question from Ambassador Gupta, coming back to wars. It's not just Ukraine. We're also seeing the Middle East is in turmoil, with the situation between Israel and Iran continuously escalating. We've seen the barrage of missiles that were fired from Tehran towards Tel Aviv. Tel Aviv, of course, retaliating by, targeting Iran's air bases in particular and air defense infrastructure. Meanwhile, the US has recently sent its B-52 bombers to the region. These are nuclear-capable bombers, and they already have around 43,000 troops in the region. Now, this all has taken place, and we've seen the tensions escalate in the region as the Biden administration is in Paar. But in contrast, what we'd seen around 4 years back in 2020 was a breakthrough when the Trump administration's efforts had resulted in the Abraham Accords over there. So do you think then, there'd be any, what sort of outcome would you sort of assess if Trump comes back to power? Will be being seeing, less aid towards Israel, military aid towards Israel, if Trump does come to power?
No, I think if Trump comes to power, Trump is definitely going to be much more supportive of Israel, and the Iranians are very worried about a possible Trump's victory. So definitely, I mean, the US will lean more in favor of Israel, and you know, the kind of deals that Biden was trying to make with the Iranians, I think those are completely off. And I think Trump will take a much more harder line towards Iran. And Iran's position has already kind of weakened considerably, you know, with all the attacks on the Iranian proxies, you know, the way they have been decimated by Israel and so on. And now these attacks on Iranian defense systems and Iranian missile manufacturing sites. Iran is already quite in a weak position. So I think Trump will definitely favor Israel, and Prime Minister Netanyahu is waiting for President Trump to come and take over, and he will be delighted.
All right, with that, Ambassador Gupta, I would like to thank you for joining us on the broadcast. I request Ms. Priia Seagar to stay back with us because we have some very interesting news coming in from the political arena. Sharad Pawar has dropped a major retirement hint. Sharad Pawar, while speaking in Baramati, has stated that I am not in power and my tenure in the Rajya Sabha has 1.5 years left. He's also stated, and I quote, that I will not contest any election in the future and I will have to stop somewhere or the other. First up, joining us on the broadcast to share more details is my colleague Nitish Jha. Nitish, over to you. Major hint dropped by Sharad Pawar. What do you have to tell us?
Yes, absolutely. In Baramati today, while campaigning for his grandnephew Yogendra Pawar, Sharad Pawar has given a hint. Sharad Pawar, while acknowledging the people, Sharad Pawar has asserted the contribution of Ajit Pawar to the constituency, and also while campaigning for grandnephew, Sharad Pawar in Shishupal in Baramati, Sharad Pawar addressed the people of Baramati, where he has been elected from for 14 years. For 14 times, he clearly made a statement that he got elected 14 times, not a single time people of Baramati or the other constituency where from he contest made him win. And now this is the time for the younger generation to came in power. And also while campaigning for grandnephew, Sharad Pawar has clearly made that the people of Maharashtra made him a chief minister, not for one time, not for 2 times, but for 4 times. And he has worked for people of Maharashtra for 25 years. And he also handed over all local powers to Ajit Dada, entrusting him with all decisions to plan for programs and elections for local bodies, sugar and milk bodies. And still Ajit Pawar left him and he made his handshake with BJP. And also he stated that Ajit Pawar worked in the region for 25-30 years, and there's no doubt about the work he did. And now it's time to prepare for the future. And he stated that now it's time to groom leadership that will work for next 30 years. And the former Union Minister Sharad Pawar has also stated that adding the point that everyone should got opportunity, and he has never held anyone back. And if someone saying he will take everything, people may not say anything but will disapprove it. He clearly directed these things to Ajit Pawar. But further, they also he stated that he hadn't come to ask for votes. The people of Baramati have never disappointed him, and now it's time to select a young leadership. And the NCP SP Chief Sharad Pawar has clearly stated developmental works in Baramati, including setting up industrial area, attracting business and generating employment. Everything he worked for the people, and now he has not in mood or to contest election again.
All right, Nitish, with that, I would like to thank you for sharing all those details. Still with us on the broadcast, Editorial Director of NewsX, Priia Seagar. Ma'am, these are some really interesting developments coming in. Major hint by the NCP Supremo with regards to his retirement. Who, in your assessment, is next in rung? Can we expect Supriya Sule Sule to take over, or do you think they're waiting to groom Yogendra Pawar for this role, because these comments were made when Sharad Pawar was campaigning for Yogendra Pawar?
I think, yeah, this is mostly poll rhetoric, it is but obvious that Sharad Pawar doesn't have, very more electoral innings left. So in that sense, he's been talking about retirement even in the last Lok Sabha also. It could be an emotional appeal to the voters. This is my last election, so please, make sure that I go out on a high and not, on a low. It's a lot of people do that, saying this is my last election, yet it's not their last election. But given Pawar's age, and I think the position he's in, he also wants to see a smooth transition in his lifetime. To answer your question, I think his chosen heir apparent is very much Supriya Sule, his daughter, which is why also Ajit Pawar split the party and did what he did, because he saw the writing on the wall. He realized that while Sharad Pawar is around, the line of succession would not come to him, and he wanted, which is the reason why Ajit Pawar split. So while he said this at Yogendra Pawar's campaign, yes, of course, Yogendra Pawar is going to have some kind of a role in the NCP, given the fact that he is a Pawar. But in terms of succession stakes, I think Supriya Sule is very much Pawar's chosen heir apparent. Should the Mahavikas Aghadi come to Paar, I'm sure Sharad Pawar, if he's also contesting on a larger number of seats than he had bargained for, he could push for Supriya Sule as deputy CM or some kind of a larger role.
All right, ma'am. With that, I would like to thank you for taking out time joining us on the broadcast today, of course, sharing your perspective and all of these developments. Meanwhile, viewers, some other breaking developments coming in this time regarding the Nandan Canan Express in Odisha. There are reports of firing on the train near Bhadrak in Odisha. This has prompted the Indian Railway officials to launch an investigation. The incident occurred around 9:45 a.m. when the guard's coach of the train was allegedly targeted. No injuries have been reported till now, and authorities are closely monitoring the situation to ensure passenger safety. My colleague Akshay Maharana is joining us on the broadcast to share more details. Akshay, we're being told that this firing incident took place sometime around 9:45 a.m. in the morning, and since then a high-level inquiry has been launched. What other details are you tracking for our viewers?
देखिए, जो नंदन कानन एक्सप्रेस है वो निजामुद्दीन से पूरी आने वाला था, और तकरीबन 9:45 या 10 बजे जो फायरिंग की खबर आई हुई है, फिर भी ये फायरिंग हुआ है या और कुछ है, हम जांच के लिए अभी आदेश दे चुके हैं। जो अधिकारी है जांच के लिए आदेश दे चुके हैं। फिर भी ये जो बार बार ऐसे घटना होना, और लोगों की मन में भी की भय है कि वो जो जब सफर करते हैं ट्रेन में, कि वो सेफ्टी उनको जो मुहैया कराया जाता है जो रेल के तरफ से, तो कहीं ना कहीं उसके एक ऐसा है कि लोग भी डरे हुए हैं कि शायद जो ट्रेन में जो सफर करते हैं वो भी डरे हुए हैं कि कहीं उनको भी ये अटैक कहीं ना कहीं हो सके या अटैक कोई कर लेगा। फिर भी ये आप देख सकते हैं कि निजामुद्दीन से जब भद्रक के आसपास हुआ था ये ट्रेन, उस के कथित तौर पर एक खबर आया हुआ है कि वहां फायरिंग हुआ है। वाकई फायरिंग हुआ है या नहीं, ये भी जो अधिकारी है जांच पड़ताल में लग चुके हैं। हम जब जो CPRO है यहाँ के अशोक मिश्रा जी है, उनसे बातचीत कर रहे थे, उनका भी बोलना है कि कुछ नुकीले चीज आके टकराया हुआ है। फिर भी ये अब तक जांच चल रहा है कि ये वाकई क्या था, वाकई गोली था या और कुछ था जो आके टकराया, और ऐसे नुकीले चीज जब ट्रेन चल रही थी तो ये कैसे लगा, तो किसी को नुकसान भी हो सकता था। तो ये उनका बोलना है कि लास्ट के डिब्बा में था, तो लास्ट में डिब्बे के जब लास्ट में ये हमला हुआ था, शायद हमला ही बोला जा सकता है, क्योंकि ये गोली है या और कोई जो वस्तु है ये अभी तक पता नहीं चला है। फिर भी गोली है तो ये बहुत संवेदनशील है, ये बहुत गंभीर है, क्योंकि जो लोग सफर कर रहे थे उनको भी लग सकता था ये।
All right, with that, I would like to thank you for joining us on the broadcast, sharing all those details. With that, viewers, it's a wrap on this bulletin. More news and updates on the other side. Stay tuned on NewsX.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.